Hey guys, Entached here, and the season of Opulence is upon us. This is the newest season, the final piece of content from the season pass. Well, there might be some other little things sprinkled in, but for the most part, this is the core stuff. I've done the raid, I've done the Menagerie, farmed for some gear, and even played PvP with some of the new exotics. And I wanted to talk about how good is this piece of content? Was this worth the money? And how did these 3 DLCs feel? AKA, should you buy the season pass or not? Especially if you're late to the party, or maybe you quit and you're wondering, well, should I return? I'm going to answer that today. But you might be wondering, Mtash, why do you look so fancy? Why are you dressed like that? Well, it's because this video is sponsored by Almighty Collar. This is actually a new menswear company that came out, and I thought it was really cool. When they reached out to me, I checked it out, and I was a big fan instantly. What it is it's a subscription service where they send you an outfit. They essentially send you a shirt, a tie, even a watch. You can see here, not the jacket, but the shirt, the tie, the pocket square, the watch, even my socks right here. These are all in there. All in there. They sent that right to me. See that sock right there? I think it's really cool. If you've got a job interview, you've got a date, maybe you want to hook your dad up for a Father's Day gift. You can get this going. Subscribe for a couple of months, and you can cancel whenever you want without any sort of penalties. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Get a couple outfits, style up your life, look good, and feel good. I think that Almighty Collar is an awesome brand to work with, and I appreciate you guys reaching out to me because this is something I would use myself, and I kind of like to promote things that I would actually use. Now, if you guys want to get an outfit for yourself, use the code MTASHED15. That's MTASH15, all one word, and you'll actually get 15% off your subscription. Now I'm going to shut up. I'm done with it. We're going to talk about the review. Let's jump into it. Check out the links in the description right now. Oh my god. Let's start with some of the good stuff. The Menagerie is the new activity in the season of Opulence, and I think it's a good piece of content, if not great piece of content. It feels kind of like a game show with multiple little mini games that you play to end up getting loot. Now, some of the loot isn't amazing. I'm not going to lie and say that some of the items that drop are top tier. They just aren't. They aren't the right archetype or they don't have cool enough perks, but they are pretty solid, and I can't lie and say we've seen absolutely every single roll and every single gun because it's impossible at this point. But I do think that being able to farm guaranteed items is very appealing, and even the ones that are available right now are solid. They just might not make you scream and cry when you get one to drop because they're so good. That doesn't mean it's not worth doing, because there's armor pieces and powerful upgrades, and there can be some deadly rolls. If you look at the new, or I guess returning IS Luna type gun, it is a hard-hitting 140 RPM gun with random rolls. If you get the right roll like Kill Clip and Outlaw, it could be a top-tier weapon that might replace something like Midnight Coup as one of the best PvE weapons for hand cannons in the game. There's also a sniper, the Beloved, that can get snapshot and quick draw, or quick draw and box breathing, which makes it one of the best PvP snipers in the game as well. So, take what I said with a grain of salt, but if you compare some of these items to something like, let's say Saladin's Vigil in the Archon Forge, it's tough to compare because that was the best fusion rifle ever made, as a legendary in the game. You could map people across the map with it, and so comparing it to something like that is a little tough. But if you compare it to some of the items with something like the Forges in Black Armory, I would say they're on par, if not better, than most of them. So I think it is a very well-rounded thing rewards-wise, but the thing that sets it apart is every time you enter is going to be a little different. If you are adept at playing this, you can farm it pretty damn efficiently, and I think it's fun. I think the mechanics are fun. I think it's kind of a goofy playlist to an extent because you're doing all these random things, and I don't know. It made me satisfied playing this. When I got to the end, I opened the chest. I felt like I had a good time, and it didn't feel like a slog fest like many of the activities. It didn't feel as repetitive as many of the activities, and I think that considering that this is essentially already paid for, I already bought the season pass before. Getting this as a piece of content now felt really, really good. I was very pumped up. I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. Like this is awesome. And the fact that I already paid for it and I just get to play this now, it felt fine to me. Now, if you haven't touched the season pass and you have to buy it right now, is this worth the $35 just to touch this? Maybe not. But when you pair it with all the other pieces of content that you would now have access to, it might be. But what about the raid? I think the Crown of Sorrows raid is a great piece of content. Now, pretty much every raid that has come out has been pretty damn awesome. This is like the only game that does raids like this, and so it's hard to compare it to other games. You could compare it to a World of Warcraft raid, but they are very, very different things. A first-person shooter raid is pretty hard to build, from what I gather, and making mechanics that are meaningful is tough. And I think that they made some pretty interesting mechanics in this, even though they are frustrating at times. It can be a little bit annoying how random things like these crystal spawns can be, because it adds a lot of unknowns to the equation. If you don't know where something is going to spawn, or you don't know how to effectively counter it every single time, it adds a stress layer into the raid that was annoying to me. I got pissed off a few times because an enemy would spawn in a certain area, or an engagement would start and be completely different than the last time, and not in a good way. If you know all the mechanics and you become a good raider, it feels rewarding to understand everything. And I felt with this one there was a lot of randomization, which I'll show in a second here. This fight is random every time you start it. Depending on what side or corner you're in, there's going to be different enemies that spawn. Sometimes you need a buff and sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's the boss literally in your corner running around trying to chop your head off, and it adds this extra layer of randomness that kind of angers me. It makes it so that instead of putting the guy that's really good at avoiding the boss in a particular area, he is literally randomized on where he is on the map. If there's people that are really good at trading buffs and really happy with doing it, well, it's going to be random if they even get to use the buff until the very, very end. And I find that frustrating at a very hardcore level. But even with that major frustration, I think it's a good raid. The rewards from the raid are actually pretty damn good, and they help you in not only this raid with some extra perks that are available, but the Menagerie as well, making it feel much more valuable to do this. You can get the items as well from the Eververse store, which I learned and was kind of upset about, but if you want the absolute min-maxed Menagerie farming or raid farming gear, you can get it. And I think that that's a pretty awesome thing. Now, as for the weapons, are there any that are absolute must-farm, god-tier items? Not really. There's a couple that are pretty good, but they're not amazing archetypes of weapons. They're not, like, the best of the best. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry, these are so amazing that I've seen. But there are some new perks that are available, which definitely are fun to play around with. Overall, I think this is a strong raid. Stronger than some of the Destiny 1 raids, and definitely stronger than some of the Destiny 2 raids so far. And overall package, I'm a big, big fan. If you look at other activities, such as strikes, or new Crucible maps or anything like that, pretty bare bones. There's nothing really being added. But that's a little bit to be expected because these seasons, they're not meant to be like huge DLCs. We paid $35 for essentially 3 seasons. Season of the Drifter, not amazing in my opinion. Scourge of the Past and Black Armory, pretty good. And this one, again, probably the strongest of them, other than one little thing. Balance changes and updates to the Crucible still are very far behind. We're talking 3, 4, 5 months before there's a meaningful change. Things that are obvious issues in the game remain, such as the health on supers, and the ability to roam around the map and get 4 or 5 kills every time because they last forever, and are pretty much impossible to kill in most situations. And that is frustrating. That it is so obvious some of these Crucible changes that need to be made, and they aren't being made. There are balance issues with multiple guns, there are flinch issues with things like the sniper, and there are issues with even pulse rifles flinching your shots and making you miss that make the game feel shitty at times. There are some pretty, basic things such as change the value of their health or change the damage of this gun that I think would go a long way in making people a lot happier with Destiny PvP. But it just doesn't happen. Now, I understand that it isn't easy to make core changes to gameplay. It isn't easy making new systems. You can't just code a new thing and make it work instantly. But I question if some of the integers or damage values on guns could be changed relatively easy. Or if something like the health slider saying how much health a super gets could be changed relatively easy. If they change those values sooner, a lot of people would be a lot happier because supers have been annoying for a long time. Months, years, they've been annoying. So why can't that change sooner rather than later? And how much feedback do they need? Now, I understand that they want feedback from multiple different types of community members. Some people like feeling super and using their super. Someone like me likes the more competitive gunplay of a game. I don't like the supers as much. I like to use them because it's in the game, but it's not like the thing that makes me feel excited. Landing a good snipe makes me feel excited, so I'm going to be a different type of player. So they can't just balance the game around me, and I understand that. But when everyone is complaining, oh my god, Spectral Blades needs a nerf, back in the day, you would think that they would jump on that a little bit sooner. So that is one of my biggest gripes. There's no real new maps being added to the game right now, which makes things feel stale because I think that the maps in Destiny 2 are very, very weak overall. Some of them are terrible, and I actually want to quit out whenever I get them. And the fact that there hasn't really been new strikes added in a while is a little frustrating as well. I'm not a big strike player, but I know that that is a huge part of the population, and I think that that needs to be adjusted sooner rather than later. I don't have much more to say on those things. I think overall, this Season of Opulence is pretty good, and with the future of Destiny looking pretty damn bright, if you guys saw my video yesterday or watched the Bungie Vidoc, I don't know. I can't complain too much because it seems like they're going in the right direction. Overall, Season of Opulence is pretty solid, other than the PvP stuff, but that's not necessarily this season. It is Destiny as a whole needs some work on the PvP side of things. If you look at the content in Season of Opulence, it's fantastic in my opinion. Overall, very good. Is it worth $35? Maybe not by itself, but you do get the Scourge of the Past raid, the Black Armory stuff, Season of the Drifter, and so for $35, I do think that it's probably worth it if you love Destiny, if you miss Destiny, you want to play Destiny. If you're sick of the game, you're not in love with the game, maybe wait. Wait till September. They're revamping the game. They're really adding a lot to the game from what we can tell, and so maybe it is best to wait. I think that Season of Opulence did do some very, very good things, and probably is the strongest of the Season Pass. That's it for me though, guys. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out Almighty Collar. If you want some awesome new clothes, you want to look dapper, you can get 15% off if you use code MTASHED15 at checkout. Links are in the description. Check out Almighty Collar, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.